One game, 8 billion people. One obsession that stops the entire world. On dusty streets in Brazil, barefoot kids chase a ball like their life depends on it. In the alleyways of Pakistan, the same game is played with the same passion. In the fields of Africa, in the frozen grounds of Russia, one game unites them all. You need no money, you need no equipment, you need nothing except a ball. When a goal is scored, a father lifts his son in joy in Mexico City. A young boy cries tears of joy in Cairo. The same emotion. Across the world, the same moment, the same feeling. Felt across every corner of this entire world. Billions of people, one game. And in 2026, the greatest tournament begins again. But have you ever stopped and asked yourself, where did this game actually come from? Who invented it? Who first kicked a ball and said this is the game the world will play? Was it the Europeans? Was it the Americans? Was it someone else entirely? When did it start? 100 years ago? 200 years ago? Or was it something much older, something that goes back thousands of years, long before FIFA, long before World Cups, long before stadiums and billions of fans? Who were the first people to play this game? What did it look like back then? How did a simple game become the most powerful sport in all of human history? These are the questions nobody asks, but everybody should know the answers. The story of football is not what you think it is, not even close. It is not a simple story. It is not a short story. It is not one nation's story. It is a story that spans over 2,000 years of human history. It crosses empires. It crosses civilizations. It crosses wars and revolutions. It crosses the rise and fall of entire nations across every corner of this earth. And somewhere in that long journey, a simple game transformed into something extraordinary. Today, we are going to take you on that journey. The full journey from the very beginning. From the ancient fields of China 2,000 years ago to the stadiums of 2026. This is not just the history of a game. Our story begins not in England, not in Europe, but in ancient China. Over 2,000 years ago, during the Han Dynasty, a game was born that changed everything. They called it cuju, ku meaning to kick, ju meaning ball. A leather ball stuffed with feathers and hair. Two teams, one goal, kick it through. Soldiers played it to train for war. Emperors watched it for entertainment and glory. The common people played it in the streets for one simple reason, pure joy. This was the earliest recorded form of football in all of human history. The Han Dynasty emperors were obsessed with it. It spread across imperial courts. Cuju spread across China for centuries. It grew, it evolved, it became more powerful. Tournaments were held. Crowds gathered to watch. The game was becoming something bigger. In ancient Japan, a similar game called Kamari was played keeping the ball in the air. In ancient Greece and Rome, soldiers and citizens played games involving kicking a ball. The Aztecs and the Maya played a sacred ball game. Across every corner of the ancient world, humans were discovering the same truth. Football was not invented by one person. It was born naturally in the heart of humanity. Now we move forward in time, away from ancient empires, into medieval Europe. It is the year 1000 AD. Europe is wild, turbulent, and full of restless energy. Kings and knights rule the land, wars are fought constantly, and the people need release. And so they played. But this was nothing like the organized game of cuju in China. This was chaos. Pure, uncontrolled, unstoppable chaos. Entire villages gathered on open fields, hundreds of men on each side, no rules at all. The goal was simple: get the ball to the other end of the village by any means necessary. Men were tackled. Men were thrown to the ground. Men were injured, sometimes very badly. It was less of a game and more of a battle fought in the streets. In England, they called it mob football, and it was completely out of control. Shop windows were smashed, people were trampled, entire towns were turned upside down. It became so violent that King Edward II banned football completely in 1314. He declared football was causing too much noise and chaos. in the streets of London. But banning it did nothing. People kept playing in secret, in fields, in back alleys. No king, no law, no punishment could stop what was burning in the hearts of the people. And slowly, out of all that chaos and passion, the game began to evolve. By the mid-1800s, football was being played everywhere across England, in schools, in universities, in parks and open fields across the entire country. But there was one massive problem. Every town, every school, every group had different rules. In some places you could pick up the ball, in others you could not. Complete confusion. When two teams from different towns tried to play each other, nobody knew what to do. Something had to change. And on the 26th of October 1863, everything changed. In a tavern in London called the Freemasons' Arms, a group of men sat down together. Representatives from different football clubs across England. One mission, one set of rules. After hours of debate and argument, they finally agreed, and history was made. On that day, the Football Association was born. The modern game had its foundation. No handling the ball, no tripping, no hacking. A defined pitch, a defined goal. For the first time in history, football had a proper structure, a proper identity. From this small room in London, rules written on paper would go on to conquer the world. British sailors and soldiers began traveling the globe, and they brought the game with them. Football caught fire everywhere it touched. In Brazil, it became an obsession. In Argentina, a passion. In Germany, a pride. The game that started in chaos was now spreading across every continent on Earth. By the early 1900s, football had spread across the entire world. Europe was playing it. South America was playing it. Africa and Asia were playing it. But there was a problem. Every country had its own rules, its own way of doing things. There was no single organization to bring them all together, no one body to govern the game. Football was growing fast, but it was growing in all different directions at once. And on the 21st of May 1904, in a small office in Paris, France, history was made. 7 nations sat down together: France, Belgium, Denmark, Netherlands, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland. 7 nations, one mission: to create a single governing body for world football. And on that day, FIFA was born. It was a small beginning, but a monumental decision. Within years, more nations joined. FIFA gave the game structure. But FIFA had an even bigger dream, a dream that went beyond clubs and national teams. A dream of one single tournament where the greatest nations on Earth would compete. A tournament to determine once and for all who was the greatest football nation on Earth. The location, Uruguay, a small nation in South America. And for the first time in human history, a World Cup was about to be played. 13 nations made the journey, from Europe, from South America, from North America. There were no planes back then. European teams crossed the Atlantic Ocean by ship, weeks of travelling across open ocean, just to play football. That is how much it meant. The stadiums were simple, but the passion was exactly the same. Thousands of fans packed into the grounds. On the 30th of July 1930, Uruguay faced Argentina in the very first World Cup final. The tension was unbearable. The world held its breath. When the final whistle blew, Uruguay stood victorious, the very first World Cup champions. Players fell to their knees. An entire nation celebrated like never before. 4 years later, the World Cup returned. Then again, growing every single time. Through World War II, it was paused. But the moment peace returned, football came back. More nations, more fans. World Cup grew beyond all expectations. The 1950s, the 1960s, the 1970s. And then came a man who changed everything. A young boy from Brazil. His name was Pelé. And he was only 17 years old at his first World Cup in 1958. Brazil won the World Cup that year, and Pelé became the most famous footballer on earth. Then came Johan Cruyff of Netherlands, a man who completely reinvented how football was played. Then came Diego Maradona of Argentina. His 1986 World Cup performance is still considered one of the greatest in all of history. Ronaldo of Brazil, a striker so powerful and so lethal that defenders feared his very name. Zinedine Zidane of France, a man of elegance who led his nation to World Cup glory in 1998. Each generation produced its own hero. Then came two names that divided the entire world into two camps forever: Lionel Messi of Argentina and Cristiano Ronaldo of Portugal. Two icons, one era. But their story was never the end, because football was always bigger than any one player. It belongs to every generation, every child with a dream, every nation with a flag, every heart that beats for the game. A story still being written. The beautiful game goes on, and it always will.